And welcome back to another installment of Decatur Dish, where we dish out what's been going on in Dicab County every Wednesday with you. I am Maria Moreau with Atlanta News First, joined by our media partners at Decatur Dish, Dan Wisenhunt. Always a pleasure to be here with you.
Happy to
talking
be here.
about Dicab.
I'm glad that you used dish as both a noun and a verb. That was
Yes,
very clever.
thank you.
Our
I'm
viewers
getting better at
appreciated the
these.
wordplay.
So there's always something going on in Dicab, it seems, which makes this show so exciting. And I want to start by talking about meth. What has been going on in Dicab, because we keep getting stories about these drug busts. And this latest one out of Dicab County, we're talking about a ton of meth, 2,500 pounds approximately, according to federal investigators. The U.S. Department of Justice seizing all of that meth that you see on your screen right there from what they say were two auto mechanic workers in the county who were transporting it out of the auto repair shop and were busted, and all of that meth now confiscated. Those two individuals facing charges. Dan, what's your reaction?
Times are tough. People are really struggling to get a handle, with all the uncertainty in the economy, all the uncertainty in global and national politics. Sometimes you gotta turn to meth. I don't know. It's not my personal comfort mechanism, but to each their own, I suppose. Probably not a good idea to be transporting pounds and pounds of it. That's a great way to get you in trouble with Uncle Sam.
Oh,
But
yes.
That's really all I have to say on the matter. I don't know anything about it. I don't know these people. I know it's in DeKalb County. I don't claim them, though.
I don't claim them.
Don't claim them.
If you want to read more about this story, we have a full article for you on AtlantaNewsFirst.com, including their charges, including exactly the details of this investigation. But basically, don't do it. Don't do drugs.
It's a whole lot of meth, y'all.
We've been telling you this since you were
Big
little.
trouble.
Don't do it.
Don't do drugs.
All right, let's talk about the big story that we've been following over the past couple of episodes here, and now we can finally talk about the winner of the Democratic primary runoff for the Public Service Commission seat. The votes are in. We finally know who is going to be going up against Republican incumbent Fitz Johnson.
Peter Hubbard. Peter Hubbard prevailed, which is interesting because Keisha Waites actually had the most votes. He trailed her going into the runoff. What I suspect happened is Keisha Waites, one of her friends bought a house from her and was responsible in part for getting Daniel Blackman disqualified. To be clear, Daniel Blackman's really responsible for getting Daniel Blackman disqualified because he should have read the residency requirements, but somebody connected to Keisha was involved in getting him disqualified. I don't know if that had an effect, but I know a lot of people who followed that race probably read that and thought it was a turnoff. Peter Hubbard saw a lot of momentum and endorsement shift in his direction late, and he prevailed. And I'm really interested to see what happens this November, Maria, because a lot of people are big mad at their government right now, and when that happens, leaders tend to do poorly. So we may, for the first time in a long time, have a Democratic member on the PSC this November, or come next January. We shall see. We shall see if people are still big mad come November, but that's the way things are shaping up.
And this is a very consequential seat. We're talking about a board that oversees your utility bills and infrastructure and a lot of other big things in Georgia, really. So we're looking closely at this race. We're going to keep talking about it leading up to November, and of course, seeing who it's going to be between Fitz Johnson now and Peter Hubbard. I want to keep the conversation on politics here for a moment because there was, as is usual, a vote for nominees for the DeKalb Elections Board. And pretty much everybody that the Democrats and Republicans had nominated went through, except for one, a judge rejecting a Republican nominee. What happened here?
He was a known election denier, 2020 election denier. There are still people who, I looked at the calendar, it's 2025 now, believe it or not, but there are still people who are convinced that Joe Biden was not elected in 2020, and they've been fired. The fellow's name is, I want to get this right, is Bill Henderson was rejected, and he filed a lot of voter challenges. He got a lot of pushback from people who didn't want him on the board. So they didn't. The elections board, for people who don't know, has to have 2 GOPers and 2 Democrats and a nonpartisan person. So he was the only one that got rejected. I'd have to do some digging on this. I don't know the last time somebody has been rejected from the elections board. Frankly, it's a thankless job. There's not a lot of glamour to it, and because you could tell because there's a whole lot of turnover. But it was a rather interesting outcome to this. But the Republicans, they still have to have 2 GOP nominees, so they got 2. I predict we're going to see a lot of 2-3-2 votes in the future. Typically, the chair votes to reject these mass voter challenges. So there you go.
Replacing Bill Henderson, Travis Bowden was nominated and accepted to the board. So this is the 2025 through 2027 board, I believe.
Yes.
Moving on to another story that's really caused some conversation around Dicab County. 63 people were arrested in the last week in the county as part of an initiative by the sheriff's office called Operation Safe Dicab 2025. So officials basically are saying they are targeting violent offenders who had active arrest warrants against them. And these warrants range anywhere from murder, robbery, assault, to misdemeanor and felony probation violations, as well as family violence offenses. Now, in America, you are presumed innocent until you've had your day in court, and some are criticizing particularly the misdemeanor and lower level offenses, saying that is this an adequate and appropriate use of police resources, or sheriff's resources, I should say.
I've got some hot takes on this. So we got a press release before Operation Safe Dicab, and they said, hey, media, if you want to come out, we're going to arrest these folks that have these outstanding warrants. Now, I assumed DeKalb County was still unsafe when they sent the press release, only it was going to be made safe as part of a media event. I'm not entirely sure why. If there are all these violent people running around, they couldn't just go and need an audience. They could have just gone and got them. But they wanted us to show up and take photos, and so some of the media did, and in DeKalb County of late, public safety has become a bit of performance art. There's been a lot of very big public displays, shows of force, people rounding up, because there is this perception, which is not backed up at all by the Part 1 crime statistics, that there's this huge surge in crime in DeKalb County. It went up during the pandemic. It's kind of leveled off now. But in politics, Maria, perception is reality. And the perception is that crime is a big issue. And more importantly, the perception is the cops don't do anything about it. So what you've seen a lot here in DeKalb lately is the cops doing stuff. And that includes setting an appointed day where they're going to make DeKalb County safer. And I'm glad they picked a day. It could have been any day as far as I'm concerned. I always like living in a safe county. But I'm glad they marked it on the calendar. I'm glad they told us all that we could show up so we could be there. For those of you who got arrested, bummer, sorry, get an attorney. For the DeKalb County Sheriff, thank you for the invitation. We heard it went real well. From my perspective as a county resident, you don't have to wait for me next time. If you think somebody dangerous is out there running around, just go get them. That would be all right with me. I don't need the dinner theater.
Well, enough said. Let's talk about Avondale, because there has been some booming projects going on in Avondale. Yes. 3 ongoing major construction projects, and I know we're going to get into some of the impacts we're seeing here with our special guest for today.
King Williams, columnist for Decatur's, is here to talk about these projects and more with us right here on the Decatur Dish. Joining us today is one of our favorite guests, Decatur-ish columnist King Williams. King, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. It's a great summer day. I'm back here with everybody. I love it.
I love having you here. Thank you so much. You can catch King Williams' work in Decatur-ish.com. He's a regular columnist for Decatur-ish Inc. To find out more about that, visit Decatur-ish.com/Inc. I-N-K. King, let's dive right into this. Avondale Estates. You wrote a column in the previous issue about how the Avondale Estates Main Street project is sort of a blueprint that other cities can follow. As we alluded to in the previous segment, Avondale Estates has got a lot going on. We've got this complete streets project going on. It's got a road diet that's going to shrink the road a little bit. We got a fiber optics project that's going on in the middle of that. And as if that wasn't enough, we've also got a water main replacement project going on. Apparently, when they were doing some other project, they found a valve that was malfunctioning. So Avondale Estates set out to do this one little bitty project. And while they had the road open, I guess, people were deciding to do other projects that they had planned. So one of these things Avondale Estates did intentionally, and then the other things just sort of got piled onto it. But I want to talk about Complete Streets because you had a great column about this. What do you like about the Complete Streets project in Avondale Estates?
Well, I think Avondale Estates is really interesting because it's not a big place, as we know, but the complete streets that they're doing is really about 4 square miles with 1 main mile that is being really revamped and reinvested in. I think for a lot of places right now, places that are looking to maybe revamp their corridors or build out new places in Atlanta, they're trying to go too big. I think everyone's been trying to copy Mark Toro for the last 20 years and what he did with Atlantic Station or what was done at Ponce City Market. And those are 2 very large real estate projects, but I think for the average city, the average suburban town, the average rural place in Georgia, following what Avondale Estates is doing, taking it mile by mile, a small 1 to 5 mile section, and really reinvesting in that is the way to go.
Do you think it's going to have the desired effect? It's going to have the payoff of people slowing down, stopping, shopping, spending money there?
Well, we kind of see it right now. I think it depends on what side of the street you're on in Avondale Estates currently. But right now, they're investing a lot in the infrastructure. And while it's a pain right now, it won't be a pain in 10 and 20 years from now. Somebody who's spent a lot of time visiting Gwinnett this summer, they have a lot of things that they should be doing as well. Like Avondale can provide the blueprint of, which is reinvesting your roads like they should have done 10, 20 years ago that they're now seeing with a lot of the road problems that they have now. And so I think for Avondale, just it's okay to get it all out the way the next 2 years or so, and it really sucks, but the next decade will be wonderful.
Pivoting, because you brought up a mixed-use development, there's another massive mixed-use development. Currently, it's a pile of rubble that used to be North Dicab Mall. One day, we are told, it will be Lula Hills. And you had another great column for us recently about, can Lula Hills work? Is this going to be the model that going forward that people can follow, kind of like Avondale Estates could be the blueprint for Main Street products? So why is Lula Hills a potential model that other people could emulate?
Lula Hills is interesting because it's in the middle, really, of Central DeKalb at North DeKalb Mall. It's also interesting because malls have really decorated our suburbs and our exurbs throughout Atlanta. For Lula Hills in particular, I think we're going to be seeing an interesting case of can you really revamp a mall by tearing it all down from the beginning? I know a lot of people are thinking about Gwinnett Place Mall or Greenbrier Mall, 2 very large malls and a sign of their times, but that's in most cases 50 to 100 acres of surface level land. And so Lula Hills are trying to be the first real flag in the center of Atlanta development that we can do this properly. What they're doing, I think, is going to be interesting is that they're going to be connecting in both with MARTA and with Path and the Parks and Trails system to make it a more integrated experience around there. And they're also building it in phases. And the phase that they're going to be doing, they've already made one pivot, which the pivot was to have more housing, but then the pivot also has been to focus on, instead of office, more hotel and experience. So I think doing that in Central DeKalb could work out really well. But no fear. North DeKalb Mall, our lovely mall of $7 movies will always be here, and it's going to stay throughout this entire development process.
The movie theater, believe it or not, is still operational. You can go see Superman there right now. I'm going to take my son this week, so we're excited about that. Of course, the downside of losing North DeKalb Mall is you lose a good setting for post-apocalyptic movies that you could shoot, but it is hopefully going to be a nice project that we can all appreciate, and we, of course, appreciate the investment that other people are making in our community. Speaking of investments, we talked about, in another recent piece that you had for us, about NIMBYs and LCJ's housing priorities. It's a little bit of a high concept for me, but break it down. What are we talking about here?
All right, so new DeKalb CEO Lorraine Cochran Johnson She's unveiled her ambitious housing plan to build more housing. She's actually one of the few politicians, I will say, in the city of Atlanta, or the metro Atlanta area rather, that really understands like what housing policy needs and what could be done to press the button to get more things going. It's not just saying we need to build more housing, which is something that you hear in urbanist spaces. It's how to actually implement it. So one of the things she's been really focused on is places like Lula Hills or places like Avondale Estates. Can we have two different ideas of development, but also in places like South Dicab, what can we do to revitalize our corridors? And one of which is the easiest things to change the zoning to allow for gentle density. And what that means is allowing for duplexes, triplexes, and these things called ADUs, or called granny flats, where people can build homes in the backyard. She's been really championing that. The other thing that she's been also pushing right now is just get more development in places right now along corridors that people already live in, like Cedar Grove, in the Boulder Crest area in southeast Atlanta. And so one of the things that we've also noticed looking at that corridor, there's a lot of people pushing back against any development in that area. So what we call that is NIMBYism in urban planning, which stands for not in my backyard. And so that's in contrast to yes in my backyard, or YIMBYism. And so a lot of cases NIMBYism wins. NIMBYism killed the Beltline here in Atlanta recently in terms of its transit access. And so when people start complaining about things that either they don't like or don't necessarily get the fuller picture on, it can stall 20, 30 years of large priorities. And so Lorraine Cochran Johnson has to really think about what she's going to be doing going forward to kind of make sure that her housing agenda gets pushed, and in places like South Decatur, which needs a variety of housing, it doesn't get stalled by neighbors. In places like Cedar Grove, which needs more variety of housing, that it also doesn't get stopped from neighbors who are trying to stop housing of any type because it doesn't fit what they believe is the aesthetic.
LCJ, as I've said on this show before, is pretty sharp, and she's also inherited a lot of challenges, and she's having to balance a lot of competing interests. Earlier in the show, I alluded to the performative aspects of public safety that are now starting to enter the picture here in DeKalb County. In June, we had a protest that went sideways. We talked about it ad nauseum. There was a police response. Tear gas was involved. LCJ's initial response was to unilaterally defend the police department. She backed off of that a little bit. Do you think LCJ stepped in it here, and do you think it's a stumble that she can recover from?
I think she did what every politician does. Like, the police are the most effective political organization in America. And no, we're not going to have that conversation on Decatur Dish. But what I will say is that it doesn't matter what it is. If you don't stand necessarily behind the police in any regards, then it's really hard to have a political career. And I think she did what she thought was right at the point in time before she got a little bit more information and had to reassess. I think that comes now to the point about her stepping back, as we've seen recently on the national level with the most recent bill that was passed through the House and the Senate for President Trump that's going to allocate over $170 billion to ICE and police-related funds. So there is an issue in which, if you're Lorraine Cochran Johnson, you need to play nice, at least to have some type of relationship with ICE, and also to have potential funds that's going to go towards policing efforts in your county, or to at least make a better amends with the state governor, who is very, very in support of what's going to be coming down the pipeline.
That's true, but DeKalb County is a very blue county, is it not? A lot of liberal people, a lot of Democrats. Is that strategy going to have diminishing returns for her as she seeks re-election, which we assume she's going to do?
She'll win re-election again, provided nothing crazy happens. But again, this is DeKalb County, this is America, and anything is possible right now. I do think right now she will at least for right now, with what she's presenting, she will win re-election. I do think the policing issue may be something that may be, for the most part, relegated to like more police activists and things like that, people who are more critical of the organization, but it won't necessarily affect her bottom line or her votes.
King, it's always a pleasure to have you join us, sir. You can check out King Williams' column on Decatorish.com and at Decatorish Inc. King, tell our viewers really quick where they can find the rest of your work and what you've got going on.
Well, I am on the internet in all places. My Instagram account is always at I am King Williams on every platform, so you can always reach to me there. And I'm also on Substack, same name.
Thank you so much. This is the Decatur Dish Show. We'll see you next week, everybody. And that's the Decatur Dish Show. We tape every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. right here on Atlanta News First Plus. To check out episodes of this show, download the Atlanta News First app. To get all the latest news from DeKalb County, visit Decatorish.com. And to hear this show as a podcast, look for Decatur Dish wherever you stream your podcasts. See you next week.